It was a cold evening in the city, the kind where the air felt heavy with silence and the streetlights threw long shadows over empty sidewalks. Keanu Reeves stood quietly near the corner of a small cafe, his hands tucked into the pockets of his worn black coat. He had been there for hours, not moving much, just waiting. Anyone passing by might have thought he was lost in thought, or maybe even waiting for someone who would never come. But Keanu was not the kind of man to give up that easily. The truth was, he was waiting for Ana de Armas. Not because she had asked him to, and not because he expected anything in return, but because she needed help, and he knew it. Earlier that morning, he had received a short, almost hesitant message from her. It was nothing more than a few words, "I'm stuck, and I don't know who else to call." There was no explanation, no details. But those words were enough. Keanu didn't question. He didn't ask for the whole story over the phone. He simply told her, "I'll be there." And he went. The hours passed slowly. The street around him grew quieter. People came and went from the cafe, but Keanu stayed in the same place, glancing at the door every time it opened. In the stillness of the evening, he thought about how life had a way of surprising you. You could go months without seeing someone, years even, and then suddenly they needed you more than ever. At last, he saw her. Ana stepped out from a taxi, wearing a long coat that looked a little too thin for the weather. Her hair was loose, falling over her face as she kept her head down. Something in her walk was different. She wasn't the confident, glowing actress the world knew. She looked smaller somehow, weighed down by something invisible. Keanu moved toward her slowly, careful not to rush. "Hey," he said softly, his voice steady. She looked up, and for a brief second, her eyes widened with relief. "You came," she whispered, as if she hadn't believed he actually would. "Of course," he replied. "I told you I'd be here." For a moment they just stood there in the dim glow of the streetlights. The city noise faded, and it felt like they were standing in their own small world. Keanu didn't push her to explain. He didn't ask why she had called him after so long. Instead, he simply gestured toward the cafe. "Let's get you warm." Inside, the smell of coffee wrapped around them like a blanket. They found a table in the corner, away from the other customers. Keanu waited until she had her hands around a hot mug before speaking again. "So, what happened?" he asked gently. Ana hesitated. Her fingers tightened around the mug. "It's complicated," she said finally. "I didn't know who else to turn to. Everything's been falling apart, and people I thought I could trust, they're not really there for me anymore." Keanu nodded slowly. "And you thought maybe I would be?" Her lips curved into a faint, almost broken smile. "I knew you would be." There was a silence after that, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of quiet that happens when two people understand each other without needing many words. Then Anna's voice cracked slightly. "I'm scared, Keanu, and I hate that I'm saying that out loud." He leaned forward, his tone steady but warm. "Being scared doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. And whatever it is you're facing, you're not facing it alone now." Anna's eyes glistened, and she quickly looked away. She didn't want to cry. Not here. Not yet. Keanu could feel the weight of whatever was haunting her, and he knew this was only the beginning of a much bigger story. There were things she wasn't saying, at least, not yet. But he also knew that trust wasn't something you could rush. So he sat there with her, letting her take her time. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can give someone is not advice or solutions, but your presence. As the minutes turned into hours and the night deepened outside, Keanu realized something important. He wasn't just here to help Ana. He was here because deep down, he understood what it felt like to be standing at the edge of something heavy, with no one else willing to wait in the cold for you. And no matter how long it took, he was ready to keep waiting until she was ready to tell him everything. The next morning, the city was still half asleep. Soft sunlight slipped between tall buildings, painting golden lines on the streets. The cafe where they had spent most of the night was now quiet, the smell of fresh bread drifting in from the kitchen. Keanu sat at the same table, sipping black coffee. Anna had barely spoken since they left the night before, but she had agreed to meet him again in the morning. He kept his eyes on the door. When she walked in, he could tell she had slept very little. There were faint shadows under her eyes, and her coat hung loosely on her shoulders. Still, she managed a small smile as she approached. "Morning," Keanu said, his voice calm. "Morning," she replied, sliding into the chair across from him. He studied her for a moment before speaking. "You ready to tell me what's going on?" Anna didn't answer right away. She stirred the tea in front of her, watching the small swirl of steam rise from the cup. Finally, she took a deep breath. "I've been followed," she said quietly. Keanu's hands stilled around his mug. "Followed? By who?" "I don't know," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "It started a few weeks ago. At first I thought I was imagining it. You know, too many late nights, too many movies, but then I started seeing the same man near my building, in different places, different days, always just watching." "Have you told anyone else? The police?" Keanu asked. She shook her head. "I tried, but by the time they came to check, he was gone. And when they asked me for proof, I had nothing. No photos, no video, just my word." "Your word is enough for me," Keanu said, his tone firm. Anna looked at him with a mix of relief and disbelief. "Why are you always like this? I call you out of nowhere and you just show up, no questions asked." "Because when someone needs you," Keanu said simply, "you don't waste time asking why. You just go." For a moment she looked like she wanted to cry again. But instead, she straightened in her seat. "There's more." Keanu leaned in slightly. "Go on." "Yesterday, before I called you, I found something taped to my door. A note." She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Her hands shook as she passed it to him. He opened it carefully. The handwriting was rough, almost angry. The words were short and chilling. "Stop asking questions or you'll regret it." Keanu stared at the note for a long moment, his jaw tightening. "Asking questions about what?" "That's the thing," she said. "I don't even know. I wasn't investigating anything. I was just living my life, going to work, reading scripts, meeting friends. I don't know what they think I know." Keanu tapped the paper lightly. "Or maybe you do know, and you don't realize it yet." Anna frowned, her eyes narrowing in thought. "You think I saw something? Something I didn't even know was important?" "It's possible," Keanu said. "And if that's the case, whoever's behind this thinks getting you scared will make you stay quiet." Anna looked down at her tea, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's working. I am scared, Keanu. More than I've ever been." He reached across the table, his hand resting lightly over hers. "That's okay. Being scared means you care about your life. It means you want to protect yourself. But fear can't make your decisions for you." She looked up at him, and for the first time since they met last night, there was a flicker of determination in her eyes. "So what do we do?" "First," Keanu said, his voice calm but sharp with resolve, "we find out who's behind this. Second, we make sure they understand they chose the wrong person to scare." She gave a small, almost shaky laugh. "You make it sound so simple." "It won't be simple," he said. "But you won't be doing it alone." Outside, the morning traffic began to hum louder. The world was waking up, But for Keanu and Anna, it felt like something much darker was just beginning. Somewhere out there, a stranger was watching. Somewhere out there, someone thought they could frighten her into silence. Keanu Reeves had no intention of letting that happen. The afternoon air was warmer than the morning, but there was no comfort in it. The city moved as it always did. People rushing past, taxis honking, shops opening their doors. Yet for Keanu and Anna, every sound seemed sharper, every face a possible threat. They walked side by side down a quieter street, away from the busier avenues. Anna kept glancing over her shoulder, her movements small but restless. "You keep looking back," Keanu said softly. "Because I can feel it," she replied. "Someone's there. I can't explain it, but I can feel it." Keanu didn't argue. Sometimes instinct was more reliable than proof. "Then let's test it," he said. Anna frowned. "Test it?" He slowed his pace, scanning the reflections in shop windows. "We're going to turn left at the next corner. Walk normally, like we're not in a hurry. If they follow, we'll know." Her breath caught. "And if they do?" He gave a small shrug. "Then we'll give them a reason to regret it." When they turned the corner, Keanu caught it. A figure lingering just far enough back to blend into the crowd, but close enough to keep sight of them. Tall, wearing a dark jacket, a baseball cap pulled low. "It's him," Anna whispered, her voice trembling. "Don't look," Keanu said quietly. "Just keep walking." They moved steadily, taking another turn, then another, until the streets grew narrower and quieter. The man was still there. "He's been following you for weeks?" Keanu asked under his breath. "Yes," she said. "But this is the closest he's ever been." At the end of the street, Keanu stopped suddenly and turned. The man froze. For a moment, there was no movement, just the hum of distant traffic and the faint echo of footsteps. Keanu's voice was calm, but his eyes were cold. "You've been following her. Why?" The man didn't answer. Instead, he took a slow step back. "Answer me," Keanu said, his tone sharper now. Still nothing. Then, as if deciding the silence was enough, the man turned and began to walk away quickly. "We can't just let him go," Anna said, panic rising in her voice. "I'm not," Keanu replied. He followed at a steady pace, keeping the man in sight. The chase led them into a small alley, the kind with peeling posters on brick walls and the smell of old rain in the air. But when they turned the corner, he was gone. Anna's eyes darted around the empty space. "Where did he—" Keanu's gaze shifted to the ground. There were footprints in the thin layer of dust, leading to a rusted metal door at the side of the alley. He stepped closer, testing the handle. It opened with a creak. Inside was a narrow hallway lit by a single flickering bulb. It smelled faintly of damp paper and something metallic. "Stay behind me," Keanu said. They moved slowly through the hallway until they reached a small, dimly lit room. A desk sat against one wall, covered in scattered papers, an old laptop, and a stack of photographs. Anna froze. Every photo on the desk was of her. Some from events, some from the street, some from places she couldn't even remember being. "Keanu," she whispered, her voice shaking. This is like a shrine." He picked up one of the photos. It had been taken the day before, Anna leaving her apartment. In the corner of the picture was a shadowy figure, and standing right beside her in the image was Keanu himself. He looked at her, his voice low. "Whoever this is, they know about me now too." Before Anna could respond, a sound came from deeper in the building. Footsteps, slow, deliberate. Keanu set the photo down. "We're not alone." The air inside the narrow hallway felt colder now, as if the sound of that voice had pulled all the warmth away. Keanu moved instinctively, placing himself between Anna and the shadows ahead. "Show yourself," he said, his voice steady but carrying an edge. The footsteps grew louder. From the dim light, a tall man emerged. He wore the same dark jacket and baseball cap, but now his face was visible. Sharp features, eyes that didn't blink enough, a thin smile that didn't reach them. "You've been following her," Keanu said, his tone low but direct. "Why?" The man tilted his head slightly, as if amused. "I'm just making sure she remembers." Anna's voice trembled. "Remembers what?" The man's eyes shifted to her. "What she saw 3 weeks ago. That night you left the hotel early. You walked down the wrong street. You saw something you shouldn't have." Anna's brows knitted in confusion. I don't remember anything like that." The man stepped closer, and Keanu subtly shifted his weight forward. "You will," the man said. "And when you do, you'll understand why you can't talk about it." "You left a note on her door," Keanu said flatly. The man gave a slow smile. "Sometimes fear works better than force. But you're making this difficult." "Good," Keanu replied, his voice sharper now. "Because you picked the wrong person to scare." The man's smile faded. "This isn't about fear. This is about survival. Yours, hers, mine. There are people involved who don't care about names, or faces, or innocence. They care about silence. And if you keep pushing," his eyes narrowed, "you'll find out how far they'll go." Anna took a step forward despite her shaking hands. "If you're so afraid of them, why not go after them instead of me?" The man didn't answer right away. His jaw tightened, and for a moment, something flickered in his expression, hesitation, maybe even guilt. "Because they're untouchable," he said finally. "And you were just unlucky enough to be there." Keanu studied him, his voice calm but filled with quiet steel. "Tell me what she saw." The man looked at Keanu for a long moment, then at Anna. "You really don't remember, do you?" Anna shook her head slowly. The man sighed, almost as if he pitied her. "There was a car. Black, tinted windows. 3 men inside. They dragged someone into it. You stopped for half a second, and that was all it took. Someone saw you looking. And now, they want to make sure you don't talk to anyone about it." Anna's breath caught. "Are you saying I saw someone being kidnapped?" The man's expression didn't change. "You saw more than that. But remembering will only get you killed." Keanu stepped closer, closing the distance between them. "Then you're going to help us. You're going to tell us everything you know." The man shook his head. "I can't. If I do, they'll—" A loud crash echoed from somewhere above them, cutting him off. The man's eyes widened. "They're here." "Who?" Anna asked, panic rising in her voice. "The ones I warned you about," he said quickly. "You need to leave. Now!" Keanu grabbed Anna's hand and pulled her toward the door, but before they could reach it, a second figure appeared in the hallway behind them. This one wearing a black mask, moving fast. The man in the cap didn't hesitate. He shoved Keanu and Anna toward the side door. "Go!" he barked. They stumbled into the alley, the sound of running footsteps and shouts chasing them into the daylight. Keanu didn't stop until they had crossed 2 blocks, finally ducking into a small bookstore. Anna's breathing was shaky. "Keanu, who were they?" He looked toward the door, his eyes hard. "I don't know yet, but we're going to find out. And when we do—" He paused, his jaw set. "We make sure they can never come near you again." The next hour passed in silence. Keanu and Anna sat in the back corner of the small bookstore, pretending to look through a pile of dusty novels while the sound of traffic hummed outside. Neither of them dared to speak too loudly. Every time someone walked in, Anna's eyes flicked toward the door, her body tensing. Keanu finally broke the silence. "We can't stay here forever." Anna nodded slowly. "But if we walk out there, what if the car is still around?" Keanu's gaze hardened. "Then we stop running and start tracking them instead." She frowned. "How? We don't even know who they are." Keanu reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something small, a tiny black device no bigger than a coin. "A friend of mine gave me this a while back. GPS tracker. I've been carrying it for months, just in case." Anna's brows lifted. "You're saying you want to tag their car?" "Exactly," he said. "If we know where they go, we know who they work for." They waited until the street outside was quieter, then left the bookstore, keeping their heads down. It didn't take long to find the black car again, parked near the edge of a narrow side street, engine running, windows still tinted so dark they reflected nothing but the gray sky. Keanu motioned for Anna to stay hidden behind a delivery truck while he approached slowly, moving like a shadow. He walked past the car once, casual, almost lazy in his movements, before doubling back and crouching near the rear bumper. In one smooth motion, he pressed the tracker under the edge of the frame. He was halfway back to Anna when the driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Tall, broad shoulders, dressed in a black suit that fit too perfectly to be random. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes scanned the street like a predator searching for prey. Keanu slipped back behind the delivery truck. They waited, holding their breath, until the man got back in the car and it rolled away. Anna exhaled shakily. "Did you get it?" Keanu nodded. "We follow from a distance now." They took a different route, using back streets, keeping just enough space so they wouldn't be noticed. The GPS tracker fed a slow, steady signal to Keanu's phone. The car moved through the city, eventually leaving the busy center and heading toward the outskirts. After nearly 40 minutes, it stopped at an old industrial district. Warehouses lined the road, most of them abandoned, their windows covered in grime. The black car pulled into one of them through a side entrance. Anna's voice was barely a whisper. "This place looks dead." "Dead is good," Keanu replied. "Less people means fewer eyes watching us." They got out of their own car and crept closer, using rusted containers and piles of broken pallets as cover. Through a crack in the warehouse's side wall, they could see inside. There were 3 men, all in black suits, standing near the car, and in the center of the open floor was a chair. A single chair. Someone was tied to it. Anna's heart raced. "Is that—" "Could be the person they kidnapped," Keanu said, his voice low. "The one you saw." One of the men stepped forward and pulled the hood off the prisoner's head. Anna gasped. The prisoner was a woman, mid-30s, bruised, her expression fierce despite the ropes around her wrists. Anna's hand covered her mouth. "I know her." Keanu turned to her sharply. "Who is she?" "She's a journalist," Anna said quickly. "We met at a charity event months ago. She told me she was working on something dangerous. She wouldn't say what. But she hinted it was about people with real power. People you don't cross." Keanu's eyes darkened. "So this is bigger than we thought." Inside, the woman suddenly shouted something, her voice muffled by the walls but filled with defiance. One of the suited men struck her across the face. Anna flinched. "We can't just leave her here." "We're not," Keanu said firmly. "But we can't go in without a plan. If we rush it, none of us get out." Anna looked back toward the warehouse. "So, what's the plan?" Keanu's gaze stayed locked on the scene inside. "We wait until nightfall. Then we make our move." But even as he said it, he felt the weight of time pressing down on them. Every minute they waited was another minute the people inside could decide the prisoner wasn't worth keeping alive. And Keanu Reeves wasn't about to let that happen. Darkness fell over the industrial district like a heavy blanket. The wind rattled loose sheets of metal on the old warehouses, the sound echoing through the empty streets. Keanu and Anna crouched behind a stack of rusted shipping containers, their eyes fixed on the building where the black car had disappeared hours earlier. Anna's hands were cold, even inside her gloves. She looked at Keanu, her voice low. "What if they've already—" "Don't think like that," Keanu said, his voice calm but steady. "We go in. We get her out. And we get out alive. That's it." "You make it sound simple," Anna whispered. "It's not," Keanu admitted. "But simple plans are the ones that work." He had already mapped the place in his head. 2 entrances in the back, 1 side door, and the main gate where the car had gone in. They'd take the side door. Fewer guards, less chance of being seen right away. Anna followed him through the shadows, every step careful, their breath slow to keep quiet. The side door creaked as Keanu eased it open and they slipped inside. The warehouse was dimly lit by a few hanging bulbs. The air smelled of oil and damp concrete. In the center of the space, the prisoner, the journalist, was still tied to the chair. 2 men stood nearby, speaking in low voices. Keanu motioned for Anna to stay back. He crept closer, using a row of crates for cover. When one of the guards stepped away toward a table, Keanu moved quickly, catching him in a silent hold until the man slumped unconscious to the floor. The other guard turned just in time to see Keanu coming. He reached for a weapon, but Keanu was faster, knocking it away and sending him sprawling with a single precise blow. Anna rushed forward to the prisoner. "We're here to help," she whispered, her hands working at the ropes. The woman looked at her through swollen eyes. You shouldn't have come. They'll—" "Too late," Keanu interrupted, pulling the last knot free. "We're all leaving. Now." But before they could move, a voice rang out from the shadows above. "You really think it's that easy?" From a platform overhead, the man in the baseball cap stepped into the light, holding a pistol loosely in one hand. Behind him, 2 more men emerged, both armed. Anna froze. "You." The man's expression was unreadable. "I told you to stay away. You didn't listen." Keanu's eyes narrowed. "So you're with them?" "I'm with myself," the man said flatly. "And right now, the best way to stay alive is to hand her back to the people she's been trying to expose." The journalist's voice cracked, but her words were defiant. "They're murderers. And so are you if you help them." The man's jaw tightened. For a moment it looked like he might shoot, but something in his eyes shifted when he looked at Anna. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was something else. "Go," he said suddenly, his voice low but sharp. "All of you. Take the side door, now." Keanu didn't move. "Why?" "Because they're coming," the man said. "And if they find me here with you, I'm dead too." Keanu held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded once. "Come with us." The man shook his head. "This is as far as I go." There wasn't time to argue. Keanu grabbed the journalist's arm, guiding her and Anna toward the side door. Footsteps thundered in the distance, more men entering the warehouse. They burst into the cold night, running hard toward the car they'd left hidden in the shadows. The moment the doors slammed shut, Keanu started the engine and they sped off into the dark. No one spoke for the first 10 minutes. The city lights eventually began to reappear in the distance. Finally, the journalist broke the silence. "You've just made enemies that won't forget your faces." Keanu's voice was calm. "They'll remember mine, and they'll know I won't stop until they can't hurt anyone else." Anna looked at him, her eyes soft but filled with gratitude. "You waited for hours. You risked your life. All for me." "Why?" Keanu kept his eyes on the road. "Because when someone needs you, you don't count the hours. You just show up, and you stay until they're safe." They drove on in silence. But it wasn't the heavy silence of fear anymore. It was the kind that comes after surviving something you weren't sure you could, the kind that binds people together in ways words can't describe. Behind them, somewhere in the shadows of the city, the man in the baseball cap watched them leave, disappearing into the night.